The day I boarded, they said one trip could earn 200,000. 3 years later, I stood on the dock, clutching the 80,000 I actually got, and only then understood that this sea swallows far more than fish. Today, the life you are about to live belongs to a deckhand on a deep-sea fishing vessel. You were born in a small village by the sea. As far back as you can remember, an old fishing net your father had mended again and again hung on the wall. The salty sea wind blew in through the window, the first smell you ever knew. Your father was an old fisherman of the village, and years at sea had worn his face like sandpaper. He never let you touch the boats, always saying this trade could cost a man his life. He wanted you to study and to leave the sea behind. But when you were 10, your father's boat never came back from a typhoon. The sea was calm as if nothing had happened, and only your mother stood on the dock for 3 whole days, refusing to leave no matter who pleaded with her. The sky fell in on the family. Your mother carried it all alone, peeling shrimp at the seafood market by day and mending other people's nets by night. Watching her swollen fingers, you understood for the first time what poverty meant. More and more villagers went out to sea, but those who came back told different stories. Some built small houses, while others returned with bodies full of illness. Whether the sea would give to you or take from you, no one could say. You dropped out before finishing middle school, not because you did not want to study, but because the family truly could not afford the fees. Standing by the shore watching the great ships in the distance, a thought rose in you, to go to sea and trade your life for money. At 17, a broker wearing a gold chain came to the village, saying he would take young men onto deep-sea ships, where one trip was worth 10 years of farming. Your mother absolutely refused, but you had already made up your mind. The broker made you sign a thick stack of contracts you could not understand, and collected 8,000 as a so-called boarding deposit. You handed over the family's last savings, believing at the time it was a ticket to a better life. The night before departure, your mother tucked a bottle of seasickness pills and a family photo she had secretly taken into your bag. She did not cry, only said over and over, "Remember to send word that you are safe, and do not end up like your father." The first time you saw the deep-sea vessel, you froze. It was even bigger than you had imagined, its rusted hull like a factory floating on water. You carried your bag up the gangway, and from that moment said goodbye to land. The moment the ship left port, the signal cut off. Only then did you learn that for the next half year and more, your only link to the outside world was an absurdly expensive satellite phone, where 1 minute cost as much as a pound of rice. You slept in a steel room in the lower hold crammed with 6 men, the bunk boards hard against your bones. When the ship rolled, the whole room rattled. For the first 3 days you vomited until even bile came up. The old sailors told you everyone had to pass the seasickness test, and once you did, you were a man of the sea. On the 4th day you forced yourself up onto the deck, and for the first time truly saw that endless stretch of blue. At sea there is no day or night, only casting and hauling the nets. One cast could take hours, and tens of tons of catch had to be sorted by hand, basket by basket. Your hands soon went numb, soaked by icy water and fish scales. Slowly you came to understand the temper of the sea, which waters held the schools of fish, what wind meant a coming storm, how to stand firm on a heaving deck. After half a year, you had grown from a landlubber into a deckhand who pulled his weight. In the busiest season, you could only sleep 3 or 4 hours a day. When the fish came, the captain gave the order and everyone worked non-stop, so tired they could sleep standing up, yet no one dared to stop. You learned to thread the steel cable onto the winch in wind and waves, and to tell from the kind of fish which waters the ship had reached. The old sailors said you had a gift, that a few more years and you could become first mate, with double the pay. Those days were bitter, but your heart was bright. Every time you hauled up a net full of catch, you felt one step closer to a good life for your family. You wrote to your mother that you would come home after just 2 more years. The liveliest night on the ship was New Year's Eve. The cook killed a chicken raised on board, and everyone gathered to drink cheap liquor. Some cried, some laughed, all of them missing home, yet none willing to be the first to say it. For the first time, you followed the ship into a foreign port for supplies. The bright, colorful world on shore dazzled your eyes. Yet you only bought a phone card at a little shop and called your mother for 3 minutes. On the phone, your mother's voice choked up. She said the village all believed you had struck it rich at sea, but all she wanted was for you to come home safe. You smiled and said soon, soon, but after hanging up you crouched in a corner of the port for a long time. Resupplied, the ship sailed back into deep water. You thought the days would go on like this, bitter and sweet, until that rainy night, when the sea showed its true face for the first time. That day the wind and waves were worse than ever. The captain should have stopped and taken shelter, but to grab one more net of fish, he ordered the hull to go on. The deck was washed over again, and everyone fought for their lives on the slick steel. Just as the winch was hauling in the net, a steel cable suddenly snapped. The fellow villager who had drunk with you at New Year was struck by the flying cable before your eyes. His whole body swept into the churning sea. You threw yourself to the railing, but in the black water there was only the surging swell. You screamed his name with all your strength, your voice swallowed clean by the wind and waves. You searched the whole night and found nothing. Just like that, the sea took a man away. Only after that night did you learn the ship had never bought its crew any real insurance. His family in the end received a pitifully small compensation, not even enough to repay the deposit he still owed the broker. You dug out the contract you had signed and read it word by word. Only then did you see it was full of traps, the wages docked for food, for gear, and for some unexplained management fee, leaving almost nothing in hand. What chilled you even more was that the $200,000 the broker had promised was the total output of the entire ship. For an ordinary deckhand like you, after all the deductions, a year came to only $50,000 or $60,000. You wanted to get off, but the contract stated plainly that breaking it midway meant a heavy penalty. You were trapped on this ship, far from any shore, surrounded on all sides by a sea that stretched beyond sight. In the days that followed, you became a different person. While hauling nets, you would stare at every steel cable for signs of wear, and when the wind rose, you were the first to urge the captain to stop. You did not want anyone else to vanish in silence like your fellow villager. The food on board grew worse and worse, and fresh water was rationed. To save money, the owners stretched a voyage that should have taken 10 months into more than a year. The temper of every man was ground harsher and harsher by this sea. One night you stood on the deck looking at the stars and suddenly missed home so badly. You thought of how your father had vanished at sea just like this. After all the wandering, you had still walked the very road he most hoped you never would. In that moment you resolved that this trip would be the last, no matter what. You wrote down each day's wages in a little notebook, counting on your fingers just how much you needed to save to buy back your own freedom. Years soaked in icy water, and your joints began to fail. Whenever the weather turned, your knees and wrists ached to the bone. You were barely past 20, yet your body was already like an old man's. But you dared not say a word, afraid your pay would be docked. At last the ship made it to the return voyage. When the outline of land appeared on the horizon, the whole crew rushed onto the deck. No one spoke, and many hardened men had red eyes. After more than a year, you were finally going home. But once ashore, you found the last hurdle had only just begun. The broker company went through the accounts with the contract in hand, and after all the deductions, 3 years of risking your life left only $80,000 in your hands. You tried to argue, but they simply pushed the contract before you, every deduction written in black and white. Only then did you fully understand that from the day you signed your name, this game had already been lost. You carried that $80,000 back to the village. Your mother held you tight, touching your rough hands and graying temples, weeping as she said, "We do not want the money. It is enough that you came home." In that moment, all your grievance broke loose. Back on land, you found you no longer knew how to live an ordinary life. You would jerk awake in the middle of the night, thinking the ship was rolling. At the slightest sound of wind, your heart would clench. That sea seemed to have stayed inside your body forever. With that $80,000, you took over a small fishing gear shop in town. Every day, young men bound for the sea came to buy their equipment, the same light in their eyes you once had. You could never help but speak up, urging them to read the contract clearly before signing. Some of the young men listened, others took you for a nagging old-timer. You did not press them, only watched the backs of those walking toward the pier, and every time your heart grew heavy. You knew that road too well, knew it well enough to fear it. Over the years, news of accidents kept drifting back to the village. Each time you heard, you grew more certain of one thing, that the money this sea gives always comes with a price tag, and the thing priced is not anything else but a man's life. The gear shop did neither well nor badly, but enough for you and your mother to live in peace. You married a girl from the same village who had waited for the sea to return her man, and her only demand was that you must never board a deep-sea ship again in this life. You often took your child to the shore, but never let him go near the great ships. You told him the beauty of the sea, and also its cruelty. You said the sea is not a thing to get rich from, but a thing to hold in awe. As you aged, every rainy day reminded you of those years soaked in icy water. Yet you never regretted it. You said that without that sea, you could never have held up this family, nor seen through the human heart. Fewer and fewer deep-sea vessels remained in the village. The young went to the cities for work, and no one was willing to trade their life for that little money anymore. Looking at the empty harbor, you could not tell whether you felt loss or relief. Sometimes on sleepless nights you would walk alone to the shore and sit. Listening to the tide rise and fall, you would speak to the fellow villager the sea had taken, telling him how the village had changed, telling him you were living well for his sake too. Now whenever someone asks whether going to sea was worth it, you fall silent for a long time. That sea gave you the money to feed your family, and also took the men beside you away. It never lied, only no one ever truly saw its price tag clearly. This is the life of a deckhand on a deep-sea fishing vessel. Share this video with the one who always thinks high pay comes without a cost. If it were you, would you gamble one trip for $200,000 or stay home and live a quiet life with your family? Tell me in the comments. Do you think it is the sea that is too cruel, or the human heart?